Hello everyone and welcome to Marketing Roundtable. My name is Tatiana Knies-Smith. I work in design.
I'm Rachel Rhodes. I work in organic social media.
And here with us today is Geoff Graham. Can you introduce yourself? Tell us a little about yourself.
Yeah, sure. So my name's Geoff. I've been with BrainDo for 7 years now. I'm a senior paid media manager here, so mostly running paid media campaigns.
How did you get into paid media and marketing in general?
So I went to school for advertising and fine art, and then I graduated and I was just kind of working odd jobs and stuff. And then I found a Craigslist ad for a marketing manager job at a dental.
You got a job on Craigslist?
Yeah, I got a Craigslist job.
I've gotten 2 of my adult jobs on Craigslist.
Yeah, it was a salary job.
Craigslist,
yeah, it was a salary job, and it was for a large dental practice. It was like a 17-chair practice, so I was doing all of their digital ads, print ads. I was like working in-house, obviously, so I was working with a lot of vendors, and so that's how I kind of got like a lot of my knowledge of paid media at first. And then I actually knew Mike Dectus, who was the old paid media manager here. I went to college with him, and he said that they were looking to hire like someone to help with paid media and then also like to help out with the office and just general office management. So so I interviewed, and Jenny and Brian at the time were into it. So yeah, I got started, and it was a slow start, but I've learned a lot obviously in the last 7 years. So
right.
Yeah.
The better half of a decade.
Yeah, for real. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And we did already cover the kind of general paid media basics with our director of media, Kelsey Benoit, last year. So that's an episode we'll link somewhere above if you're watching on YouTube. But for this episode, we're going to dive more into the industry and where it's going.
Yeah.
Yeah. So in your day-to-day, what platforms do you find clients are using the most for paid media efforts?
Meta and Google are probably the top 2 that like everyone's doing no matter what. Just obviously social is really important now to make sure you have a presence on. And Google Ads is usually just like something that everyone's doing. There's, hundreds of millions of searches a day on Google. So clients want to be ready and available when people are searching for the product or service that they're offering. So yeah, mostly Google Ads, Microsoft Ads, Meta, and LinkedIn on the day-to-day.
LinkedIn.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I guess of like the social media platforms, LinkedIn is the most popular to run ads on, or I guess it would depend on.
So LinkedIn is the B2B giant. It's like if you're B2B, you're running ads on LinkedIn no matter what usually, if you're doing social. So yeah, LinkedIn definitely B2B. Obviously Meta, like Instagram and Facebook are more B2C for sure. But there's still benefits to running ads on there if you're B2B. It just depends on your audience and target and things like that.
Right. So are there any like best practices you recommend, and do best practices like differ per platform?
Definitely. I would say test often is like the number one thing I always mention for best practices, just because there's a lot of stuff going on in each platform and each platform works differently. Mm-hmm. So for example, like using Meta, if you're doing content heavy related marketing, testing different creative, different audiences is usually like one of the biggest things that we recommend. Is to sometimes, if you're jumping right in, to have smaller budgets and have it spread thin across different audiences. That way you can see what results or what performance is better across each audience and what creative. Doing A/B testing is something that we always talk about. But one big thing is making sure that if you are doing A/B testing, that you give enough time and budget to the test to make sure there's a statistical significance. Otherwise, when you're trying to compile your results, you might not find any if you don't spend enough, or if you don't run it for long enough. It's just not going to be enough data. So like if you do test during a short time period, make sure that you have a lot of spend so that you can get enough data to really measure your results.
Like by data or like the quantity, it's like traffic, like people
traffic,
viewing it.
Engagement, traffic. Yeah, you want to have at least enough. If you're just doing like awareness and you want to do like impressions focus, just making sure you get enough people to see it that you can get a gauge on how people are interacting with the content or whatever it may be.
And we do also have a full episode on A/B testing, which will also be linked if you're on YouTube. Now, I've heard of like negative keywords before. Can you elucidate on what those are?
Yeah. So I think that actually is a good segue into the next area I kind of want to talk about, which is just like how paid media is changing in general right now and like the state of paid media right now. And I think transparency is like a big issue. So, because you're talking about negative keywords, and so Google actually is going through a lawsuit right now where they secretly increased all the bids on the auction by 10% without telling anyone.
Yeah, that sounds very illegal.
It's not illegal, but I think there's like some discrepancy or something. I didn't look into the like complete lawsuit, but it seems shady, seedy.
Yes.
I don't know if it's illegal technically.
Okay.
Because they never like really disclose the bottom
Maybe
lines.
morally gray.
Yeah, I think it's like a morally gray thing. I don't know where it's at right now. I haven't really looked at updates, but just in general, the amount of transparency for search queries has gone down heavily. They're trying to like get you to spend as much without you like refining. So the more you refine your keyword strategy and your build out your negative keyword list, the less money you're going to spend normally. So because they are like looking to hit their, quarterly numbers or whatever it is for advertiser spend, they are limiting what you're able to see and what you're able to optimize in the campaigns. So that's why it's really important for people like us who are paid media experts to go into the accounts and make sure that we're optimizing weekly, daily for negative keywords or whatever it may be, just because they're really trying to like limit what you can see now. So yeah.
Can you define real quick what negative keywords are?
Yeah, sure. So a negative keyword is basically like, if let's just say, I'm just using this as an example because I were talking about dentistry, but like, let's say that you were trying to bid on like dental implants and you saw that Google, if you use like a phrase match keyword for dental implants, because match types are changing so much now, and we can get into that in a little bit later, but because they're changing so much, you'll get like wild search queries. Like I follow a lot of other paid media experts on LinkedIn, and sometimes it's like comical what they post. Like this one guy posted, and it was literally all like bees. Like I don't even know what the keyword was, but it was just bees, like B, 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 B.
Just the letter.
Yeah, and so like the search terms can go wild, and so essentially like using negative keywords, you would remove that. You're not able to bid on that keyword. So if someone searches it, your ad wouldn't show up for it essentially. So
yeah, so like dental implants, you might want to
negative match dentures or something like that.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Dentures could show up because it's thinking that it's a similar content. It's like, because Google's really moving more towards intention-based searches, so like they are broadening. That's why like with match types and stuff like that, they are expanding it, because they're saying, well, it's still relevant to dental practices, and this user might be interested in your services regardless that they didn't search the exact thing that you're typing in or whatever. And so yeah, the reason why you want negatives is because that you might not want to bid on dentures if you're bidding on dental implants or whatever it may be. And so since you don't want to do that, since you're not offering that service or you don't want to offer that service, you negate it from the campaigns. That way, next time someone searches it, it won't show up. Your ad won't show up for it.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And we've kind of touched on this a little bit based off what you just said, like doing more keyword like work and checking things more often. What are some other ways that like decrease transparency or like less control on your end between the platform and the advertiser? Like how does that affect advertising goals?
Yeah, so I think it just kind of comes back to what I was saying, where they are kind of removing advertisers' capability to like really refine down to specific things. And I think I can kind of get into this now, but like match type changes. So before it would be like, okay, if you want to run an exact match term, it would be like, okay, I want to bid on donut shop or donuts near me because I'm a donut company or whatever it may be. Now, you can't even do that. It's like not exact at all. Like it just changed. So they're doing like it used to be close variants where it would show up for like plurals or like past tense things or like near me. But now it's showing up like it would be like croissants or like whatever, something maybe you don't like, a product you don't sell that they think is still relevant. And so that's like an issue where, like I said, like advertisers can struggle, because if you're trying to bid on a specific thing, you have to do heavy manual work to try and make sure to fight against the platforms to make it advertise exactly what you want.
Yeah, I guess the benefit for platforms doing that is that they want you to spend more money. But like as a consumer, like if I'm looking up donuts near me, I don't want to see a croissant. I want to see a donut. So it doesn't feel like it helps either side.
I think in Google's mind, besides money, like they're trying to gain money, I think they're just saying like, well, if you're hungry for a donut, you might be hungry for a croissant.
Yeah.
So they're like trying to go intention or whatever. And so I think that's like the main reason why sometimes, or why they're heading that way. They're like doing more intention based searches where like, we know this person's hungry and they want a pastry. Maybe they want this instead. And we have an advertiser who's bidding on something similar. So we'll show your ad for it.
Have you seen any benefits?
I think it really depends on the client and their industry and vertical. Sure. I think that if you were, for example, like an e-commerce retailer and you're selling clothing and maybe it was like a certain type of sneaker or something or a certain type of glove or whatever, and it wasn't exactly what you searched, but the intention was there, I think it could be good. But I think it's only good if your products are like not very specific.
Yeah.
So if you have a broader like clothing or whatever brand, e-commerce brand that is similar, I think it could draw people in. And I also think there's some benefit where sometimes it could be right on and it could be something where it's a keyword that you're not running and it has good performance. So you could get insights from the search term reports there and find maybe keywords that you weren't running before that maybe are not directly aligned, but in the same pathway that it could do well for your business or whatever it may be, bring customers in. But I think it's a struggle if you're really, really specific. It's getting harder and harder to run campaigns unless you have someone like me or someone who's savvy with paid media who can really go in and optimize like on a daily, weekly, monthly basis.
So I guess it's becoming harder for like smaller businesses to DIY a paid strategy.
I think so, yeah. Okay. Obviously, at BrainDo, we don't really deal with like smaller accounts, but at the same time, like if someone at home wanted to run their own campaigns, I would say that you should do a lot of research on what's going on just in the advertising space because a lot of things are changing. So
yeah, and we've talked about some of like the changes in like the level of control you have and stuff, like lessening that. But you mentioned specifically like a lack of transparency, which seems really weird in general since it seems like we've had a big shift towards transparency with like disclosing ads or like tracking and like data privacy things.
Yeah.
Can you like maybe elaborate some on like the transparency gap? I know there was the secret like bidding situation, but are there other examples?
I think it's tough. I think there's like two different things. So I think transparency with like data, I think is a separate thing, separate conversation. Yeah. I guess when I was saying transparency, we're talking about transparency mostly just in the platforms. I mean, specifically Google Ads, I've seen the most change. Microsoft Ads still has some limitations on some of the search terms, but it's really Google in general. And I think, again, it was just based on them like trying to hit their quarterly goals with numbers for advertiser spend. So I think that's kind of why. I don't want to say they're like completely turning their back against advertisers, of course. And I still highly recommend running Google Ads for clients. But yeah, when it comes to like data transparency and things like that, I think because the consumer is just generally more aware now that, there are some ad platforms or, in general that are reselling their data and things like that. I think that's where it comes in. I think the iOS 14 update was like a really important update because it stripped away a lot of the data that advertisers were able to get, being that you could decline some of the data capture.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's mostly just Google that has, it seems like to me, that has kind of just been like giving the advertiser less and less transparency on what's going on in the account, unless you do dig deep. So
and that's on the advertiser and not on like the consumer end who was experiencing the ads.
No, yeah, the consumers have had no change, I don't think. I guess another thing maybe it's kind of like leads me into automation and stuff. So like when you talk about transparency and like control, I think it kind of segues into like the automation of things now and how things are moving along with that. So like an example of like the transparency and like control and like automation in general, like Google Ads is moving more towards like automation in general. So they're like a while ago they removed like stagnant ads, and so now you can only run responsive search ads on Google Ads.
What is that?
They really want you to add in like 15 different headlines and a bunch of different descriptions so that it can cycle through in the real-time auction, so that whatever headline seems to be more aligned with the search that they're typing in, it'll show up. So I do agree with that. I think it's cool just because it can give the consumer a better experience. And it also can help your campaign with higher click-through rate if the ad headline is more relevant to the search as well. The one thing that you can still do is you can still pin headlines on your ads. So you're able to, like, if you want the first headline of your ad on Google Ads to say something, you're able to pin it there. But yeah, I think automation in general is just like also increasing. So transparency is one thing, but I think automation is kind of like where everything's moving towards right now.
So like just to go back, I guess, to like the stuff like Google changing things and whatnot, in like a broader sense, do you see this having any larger or like overarching repercussions in the paid media space, if other like companies might follow suit, or if maybe other people will like try to go in the reverse direction? Like, do you have any like speculation on that?
Well, I think they're just going to continue to try and make things more automated as possible. I don't know if it's like specifically trying to take control away from the advertiser, but they're trying. It seems like they're trying to say like, we want to help the advertiser out and make it easier and make it a better experience for the consumer. But I feel like that's not necessarily always the case. I definitely think automation is going to just continue to happen, especially with AI coming into play. Mm-hmm. And Google has these new campaigns called Performance Max, newer campaigns, I should say. And they basically run on every single channel. So video, display, and search, and you can run everything from one campaign. And it's basically just automating everything. There's still a lot of optimizations and things you can make, but it's really kind of just like trying to get people in and have like one campaign to manage. And yeah, it's just, I think that's something that we're going to see a lot of moving forward, is like, hey, here's one setup. You put all your creative in, you put all your copy in, and line up your keywords, and it'll just run for you. And it'll decide what channel is best for each user to display to based on their journey that they've already had, like with your product or whatever it may be.
What do you mean by channels?
So it'd be like display or video or search. So those are the different channels. So like normally, or the way it is now, a lot of people segment them out, which is smart because they have different performance, and you should not, personally, I don't think you should measure them against each other like equally, because they're just different. I think paid search, and Kelsey probably pointed on this, is really demand driven. Where like people are already searching for the product. Like you can't really push, you can bid on new keywords and broaden your keywords, but like you can't really force more people to search for something.
Right.
And so the way you supplement that is by running display campaigns or video campaigns where like you're pushing in front of new users, and then they kind of go back through and they will search your product and go through a Google campaign, or like a search campaign or whatever it may be.
This podcast is powered by BrainDo, a digital marketing agency that not only provides a diverse mix of digital services, but offers guidance, experience, and true partnership to help bring your business to the next level.
This episode was all about paid media, but we also offer expertise in analytics, development, and design, just to name a few. We've worked with businesses on every level, from local operations to Fortune 500 companies across a variety of industries.
We have experts to help strategize and execute your digital marketing needs, no matter what step in the process you're at. We're there for you, from wireframes to paid campaigns.
BrainDo, experts in everything digital. Reach out today to learn more about how we can help your business grow. So do you see, now that we've mentioned AI, do you see AI like writing more copy for the ads themselves, and like the copywriter has kind of a decreased role? Or I guess they would still like check.
Think some of the things I've seen, like I follow a lot of other professionals on LinkedIn and stuff like that, and just to see what they're doing. And yeah, a lot of people have been running tests where they test AI copy versus like copy that was written by a creative. And it seems like most times they think that the copywriter creative is doing better, or it did perform better, but also like, I don't know, because AI is still fairly new.
Yeah.
So I definitely think there's like, while it's pretty good, like ChatGPT is like pretty good with like writing stuff, I still think that sometimes it can miss like continuity or like certain aspects of creative that maybe, a computer just doesn't understand, or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
But yeah, already I think AI is, Google's adapting it. They already are using it for, like I mentioned, like the Performance Max campaigns, the PMax campaigns, and also just like in general for a lot of their search platforms and the algorithms and things like that. But yeah, I think AI is just going to keep going like further and further. And I think ad copy is going to be one of them. I think they already give you suggested headlines and stuff like that based on searches. And that's probably something that they're doing internally with their tool with AI or whatever. But yeah, I think it's going to just continue to grow and grow. And eventually it's going to be like, because we were talking about privacy and data earlier and how like cookieless advertising is going to be essentially it's going to happen. Using AI is going to be a really big part of that, I think, for making sure that your audiences are like right for the target, because you're not able to use cookies anymore to retarget them in their browser. They have to rely on AI and audiences to determine which users they should show your ad to. So yeah.
Could you explain that a little bit more? Like, I guess like simply, so like, I guess most of us know like what cookies is, but like why it affects paid media. I know you touched on it, like take away retargeting.
Yeah. So normally, like we have to place a pixel on the website, and basically what that does is it adds cookies to the user's browser so that we can retarget them. Like let's say they view one of our ads, a display ad or whatever, and they click through and they visit the site and then they leave without purchasing or registering, whatever it is. Then we can retarget them using that pixel on social or whatever it may be. But pretty soon that's going away, and it's basically just on privacy issues. People think that like you shouldn't be tracking, like GDPR was a big one where like you have to get people's permission before you add cookies to their browser. But eventually it's all just going to go away because there's just concerns with privacy and things like that. So yeah, that's the workaround. Is before we had to use pixels to do all that stuff, and it could be way more accurate because we're like, hey, we know these users visit the website. And I'm sure there's some workarounds that I'm not really familiar with yet, but it seems like the way it's going to be going with cookieless is that it's just going to be based on AI and building audiences based on the type of users that they think would be relevant to your business. So yeah, it seems like, and I'm still learning about this too, because it hasn't really happened yet. We've been heavily reliant on cookie-based advertising. But yeah, it's something that we're still trying to figure out too, just because we want to be ready when it drops. And it's already starting to happen. So
that's like a massive industry shift.
It's a major change. I mean, that's the same thing like we were talking about earlier with transparency and AI, and it's a huge shift for advertisers. And I think I don't think people are ready for like the change that's about to come, because I think even just before with GDPR, I know there's a lot of people who weren't ready for it. Yeah. And there's people who are like just updating it now. So there's definitely a wave that's about to hit with cookieless advertising, I think, for sure.
When the GDPR hit, I was working at a different, this is pre-BrainDo for me, but I was in charge of like the newsletter that went out every week. Yeah. And I remember having to like painstakingly go through our list and like reach out to certain people, and like just the way I had to adjust for when that hit, because we wanted to make sure we were doing things correctly. Like it was so time consuming, but I guess like ultimately worth it. But to manually have to sort through all that information, it's just so much work.
And right, so if you're just using AI to create like mirror audiences, like is that similar to that when you, and sometimes social and stuff already offers that. Sometimes it'll just be like a lookalike audience. Like I know that's
so lookalike audiences, we've had some good luck with them, and I think they can work, but again, those are based on cookies. Like that's the lookalike audience. Basically, you can either you can upload a list to make a match to create lookalike audiences, or you can just do it based on retargeting pixel, which uses cookies in your browser. So you still could technically use lookalikes based on like a list. Like if you have a customer list, you can upload it and say, I want to target users who look like these, who are already customers, and it can do it. But the one thing that I've found is that lookalike audiences, while we've had success, it's kind of the same thing we were talking about earlier, where if you have very specific demographics that you're trying to target, sometimes lookalike audiences aren't the best because they stretch out a little bit broader. So I think, like it's going to be difficult again if you have a very, very like niche like audience or niche audience, whatever. Like you're gonna have to like try to really optimize and test a lot. And that's kind of brings back to what I was talking about earlier, where it's like testing is so important, because especially now with the way things are headed, like you're gonna have to just test a whole bunch of different audiences and see what works. And so brands just really need to work out a healthy budget for testing, I think. It's
like so crazy. I'm like essentially right. Like you won't be able to retarget anyone who like goes on your site. So, and like that seems like such a
I mean, I'm sure there's going to be workarounds, or maybe there's something that I'm not sure aware of right now. But like I said, it's kind of one of those things where like I'm trying to get ahead of the game. Sort of. I mean, like I said, there's probably going to be something like you could definitely still like probably retarget users who are like already following your page or like on social and things like that.
Right, or like the customer list thing you said. Like if they made a purchase.
You can retarget like if you're doing retention and you want people to keep buying something or come back and buy the newer version, you already have that list of users you can upload and make audiences off of. But yeah, like I said, I mean, I'm still learning too. Like I'm still trying to follow trend.
Happening.
Yeah. I definitely think this is why another tip for like people who are in paid media is like really try and stay connected. Just follow, like I said, following other industry leaders or paid media professionals just to kind of see what they're doing, because you know at BrainDo we have a lot of clients that we work with, but there's still a lot of clients we don't work with that maybe have situations that we don't run into. Mm-hmm. So it's interesting to get a different perspective from other paid media professionals online and like what they're doing, what templates they're using, what scripts they're using. Like going back to AI, like what scripts they made with AI. Like if they asked for a paid media script for Google Ads to like indicate, or pause keywords when they're underperforming or not hitting a certain conversion rate or things like that. So
staying informed. Finger on the pulse.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, like Google Ads is already updating their layout, their UI again. So it's just stuff like that. Like things are always changing. And so I think for advertisers, like just make sure that, your agency is staying on top of it because things are always changing and there's a lot of different strategies that are floating around out there. Side topic, we talked about match types earlier, and there's a lot of people talking about how broad match is coming back and how it's really good now again. Personally, I don't think it's good for some of the clients we're working with right now, just because it's really broad and it can bring up some stuff that really isn't relevant. But the way that Google's trying to frame it is they're saying like, no, like now it's really good because it's like you're leaning even heavier into the AI, into the intention-based searches. And so like you can find keywords that you won't normally bid on. But my answer to that is like, you're going to need some like really tight negative keyword lists because sometimes it can get out of control. So
yeah, it sounds like it needs a solid plan before you just dive into broad matches.
Would it be kind of correct to say, like, I feel like I'm gleaning that this probably benefits companies who offer a wide range of things,
like Etsy,
I think,
or Amazon.
Yeah, like I think a wide range of things, or their audience is like really broad, and it could be anyone who's searching for it or something similar, even remotely similar. Yeah.
Okay, so heard it probably not here first, but I'm like heard it here first. The big companies are working together.
There's I don't know. I think there's just a lot of stuff changing, and I think it's just weird. Like Google's recommending that you start to, because before it'd be like about like, all right, making sure everything's segmented and make sure you have different campaigns for things. But now Google's like, no, like less campaigns, the better, put it all into one and like refine. But like personally, like I said, I think it really does vary. That's what I was saying earlier. Like depending on the vertical and the type of business that you're running, it really depends. Like the strategy completely changes on a case by case basis for paid media, just because people have different goals, different audiences, different products. So
and it does make me think, like, with how the internet has been going their direction and like ads that I get and everything, like things have become so specific and so niche. Like I just got an ad. It was a t-shirt, Astarion, a character from Baldur's Gate 3, which I play, and
I just started playing that too.
It's awesome. But it said girl dinner, and it was just pictures of him, and I was like, how does the internet know that my sense of humor has gotten this specific? And I just saw Brian Jordan Alvarez, who used to be like big on YouTube. He's just like a comedian and actor now. Nutter Butter reached out to him and was like, do you like peanut butter? But they spelled peanut wrong on purpose. And then a couple weeks later, or days, I don't know the timeline, but they sent back, ghosted, I fear. And it's like, everyone in the comments was like, oh my God, like Gen Z marketing is so funny. And it's like, I've tried to use these AI tools for creating captions and they're missing that flavor. Like, they can come up with really good basic captions that anyone could write. But I don't know if it's just Gen Z marketing or how niched everything has become. Like, it's still missing that little bit of a secret sauce. But I do, back to what you were saying, I think it's going to get there. I think eventually, maybe not ghosted, I fear, coming from the Nutter Butter account.
So weird.
But like, I think it's learning though, and I think it might get there. Like if I can get an ad for girl dinner, a Astarion shirt, like I don't know where the future's going. It's nuts. It's crazy. And I do appreciate those ads. So it's kind of like a...
Yeah, I think like, and that's the goal. I think like a lot of advertisers like want to be relevant and want to be like consistent, and they want like... that's why I always tell people, this is like another little side thing, but like frequency capping on your ads is really important. Just like a side note, because me as a consumer, like I get really frustrated if I'm on YouTube and I see the same ad like 10 times.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah.
Or whatever it is in a day. So like, that's just another thing where it's like, you have to like balance it out. You want to make sure the content's like refreshing and enjoyable. But also like you don't want to spam it over and over again because you start to resent the brand.
Outside of AI, what else do you think is going to be bigger in the next few years in paid media?
So I think there's a couple things. Like AR and VR ads are going to be really big. Right now it's still in its infancy. Like you can still see like brands are like creating AR lenses and stuff like that and making ads like use our AR lens and then, you know, enter into our contest for whatever it may be, things like that. And then also just like holograms and things like that for placements. Disney already has like attractions that have like crazy holograms. And so I think like eventually that stuff's going to hit the streets. Very dystopian, but I think that's like where the future of ads and paid media is going to be.
So that's still paid media. That wouldn't be like experiential marketing.
I mean, it probably will be eventually, but I think it's going to be commonplace. Like within the next 10 years, it's going to be like a lot of like augmented reality,
blur.
Yeah, whatever it is or whatever.
Feels
yeah,
like
super
so,
weird.
Like the future,
right?
Totally,
like
yeah. I mean, we're still, exactly. I think we're still quite a ways away from that, but I think that's kind of where things are already heading. Like, there's already some stuff, but I think the other stuff that I think is like kind of like what's happening right now is like, especially with like a younger demographic. Again, really depends on who your audience is for your business, but like search in general is changing. Like a lot of younger people aren't searching in Google more. They're just searching directly on YouTube or like on TikTok or whatever for products. And so I think that's kind of like what's heading into the future. I already know that you can utilize like hashtag and keyword targeting in TikTok advertising. That's something they introduced. But also, you know, you could use keyword targeting, like we were talking about lookalike audiences earlier, for like Meta, where you create an audience based off of users in Google Ads who are searching for a specific product, and then you use that audience as a lookalike in Meta. So like that's another thing. Like I think in general, though, I think it's going to just be about like search not on Google and not an engine. It's going to be like on YouTube or social, like search into social. Yeah. And I think just like shopping too, like there's storefronts now in Instagram, and you can do the store tags or product tags like in your ads on Instagram now. So people don't even have to leave the platform anymore. They can just go instead of trying to get them to leave the app and go to the store and then buy something, they can buy it right from the social platform now. And I think that's like the big game changer, especially for e-com, like people who are trying to sell products directly to consumers.
Again, everything just feels like so niched down now. Like there are so many different smaller spaces to be in. It's not just Google all the time. Yeah,
I mean, like that's why I was saying, like, and I feel like I'm a broken record, but like it really does vary on the client, like whoever it is, the business, the brand, because some channels are just going to work better for brands than others for sure.
Definitely.
Yeah. How has the like social platforms? Has there been any like increased features for like paid media and stuff surrounding shopping and search, like you said?
There's some. I don't think there's like a whole lot. Like I was just mentioning, you can run product ads now and product tags in your Instagram. I might not be saying the word exactly, but you can have like, if you scroll through a carousel ad, it'll have like the price tag right on there. So you can just click it and it'll take you directly to the product. Other than that though, I'm not really sure. We do a lot of content promotion currently for clients. A lot of the clients we're working for right now aren't e-com, so we're not doing a whole lot of shopping campaigns, but we are doing like awareness for e-com or like food and beverage or whatever it is. So like either getting them to sign up for a newsletter or like getting them to like be aware of the, you know, so if new product launches, they're aware or whatever it may be. But yeah, that's about like the newest thing I know. I haven't really, since we don't do a lot of e-com, I'm not really too up to date with that stuff.
So it is very interesting to hear where paid media is now and your views on where it will be going into the future. So for anyone who's just looking to break into the field or sharpen their skills, I mean, you've mentioned it's so important to constantly be on top of things. Yeah. What other advice do you have?
So I think there's a lot of free certifications you can take that'll give you like a basic understanding of the platform. It's one of those things where I think this is like the always thing I use for paid media is that paid media is easy to learn but hard to master, just because like you can learn the platform and how the platform works, but without like the experience of running campaigns for different clients and different verticals, you miss out on some of the like more nuanced things that you wouldn't necessarily know unless you experience it or by running the campaign. So the first thing is just to run a campaign. I think like get certified in all the platforms you're able to. There's a lot of free certifications. Google Ads certifications are all free. Same thing with Microsoft and Blueprint for Meta. And then, like just try and run a campaign. It could be a small campaign or whatever it may be, but just try and run one so you can kind of see what happens. And then also, like follow some of the major like influencers for paid media. There's a lot of free videos on YouTube and stuff like that. And also like there's a lot of groups on LinkedIn that you can follow that people will post stuff in. There's like newsletters too. Like we have one that we like a lot, ran by this guy Miles, shout out Miles. And he has like a lot of good content. He focuses more on e-com, but he shares a lot of good information and like a lot of good templates and things like that. And like just updates, I think is really important to follow. So just stay tuned, like tap in basically to the community and just like try and jump in on trends when you can.
Are there any specific LinkedIn pages you can think of now for people to find?
I'm going to say that I will give you those after and we'll put them in the bio down below. Sure. Don't forget to smash that like button. Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us today, Geoff. I feel like I learned a lot personally.
Cool.
It was really cool.
I learned I'm losing my cookies and my hyper-specific ads, maybe.
We'll see what happens.
Yeah.
Definitely losing cookies, though, for sure, eventually. Yeah.
That's a bittersweet thing, I guess. But you can find us on social media, Instagram, brain.do, YouTube, BrainDo, LinkedIn, BrainDo. Everything will be linked down below. And we will see you next time on
The Roundtable.